This was the scene at the Kramatorsk train station on Friday. At least 57 people, many women and children, killed in a missile strike as they were seeking to evacuate eastern Ukraine. The attack condemned by UN Women, with calls for the Council to continue to use all avenues for peace and a greater role for women in the pursuit thereof.
The Security Council has adopted 10 resolutions calling for women to be meaningfully involved in any decision or negotiation about peace and security. And we know that women's involvement is both a right and an opportunity for better outcomes. This is especially important in a war that has so starkly illustrated gender-based differences. Let us not lose sight of this. I have seen firsthand the impact of women's leadership can have. Yet women are largely absent from any current negotiation efforts. We ask the Security Council, all member states, and our development and humanitarian partners to ensure the meaningful participation of women and girls.
Bahus, who returned last night from meeting refugees in neighboring Moldova, called on the Russian Federation to withdraw its troops from Ukraine's territory immediately, while urging greater support for countries in the region to bolster efforts to combat trafficking and sexual violence, as she emphasized the need for a gender-sensitive response to the conflict. Warning that the brutality displayed against Ukrainians had raised all red flags.
A war of this magnitude impacts the world far beyond the borders of Ukraine. I also heard from the government in Moldova and the border police a need for increased support to monitor border crossings. The risk of human trafficking is increasing as the situation becomes more desperate. Young women and unaccompanied teenagers are at a particular risk.
I must say, in my 31 years as a humanitarian, I've rarely seen so much damage caused in so little time.
This UNICEF official recently returned from a mission to Ukraine. He warns that of the 3.2 million children estimated to have remained in their homes in Ukraine, nearly half may be at risk of not having enough food, while infrastructure damage, including to water, sanitation and power resources, has only augmented their risk.
The situation is even worse in cities like Mariupol and Kherson, where children and their families have now gone weeks without running water and sanitation services, a regular supply of food and medical care. They are sheltering in their homes and underground, waiting for the bombs and violence to stop. As of yesterday, the High Commissioner for Human Rights Office has verified 142 children killed and 229 children injured. We know these numbers are likely much higher, and many of them were caused by crossfire or the use of explosive weapons in populated areas.
As human rights defenders in Ukraine accuse Russian troops of directly targeting civilians, including of kidnapping, torture, sexual violence and death.
We do not want you to look at us only as victims of Russian military aggression. Women in peace and security sector, volunteers, activists, journalists, human rights defenders are an integral part of the progress and development in Ukraine. We have knowledge, we have skills, we have expertise, we have strength, but we need to be saved and protected now. We call to all members of the Security Council, international institutions, the governments, to stop the war and demonstrate your solidarity in the concrete and practical actions, to find and to use the tools to stop Russian aggression.
Russia continues to deny allegations that it's targeting civilians, while accusing Ukraine of using non-combatants as human shields. Siobhan Bryceby's SABC News, New York.